Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage and yet another project on the channel. No, this car is not mine. This belongs to a viewer of the channel who contacted me and asked me if I could give it a Seaside Garage revival. This is his first car. It is a Opel Kadett from 1990. It is without an MOT at the moment, but it is old enough to be a real classic with 8 years in between the MOT and all that. And he wants me to give it a bit of a revival, a fresh MOT, if it is possible to do so without breaking the bank, of course. So what I'm going to do in this video is to inspect it and see how much work is needed to fix this Opel Kadett LIFE edition. It's pretty cool, actually. I have driven quite a lot in one of these back when I got my driver's license. I remember a good mate of mine owned one of these, and it just had the most shaking steering wheel ever. But back then I didn't know anything about how to fix stuff, so we just lived with it. But what I want to do is to put this on the lift, take off the wheels and give it an inspection to see how much is needed to get it through the MOT. And then Daniel, the owner of this car, got a list of other small stuff that he would like to fix that is not necessary for the MOT, but still, he would like me to fix it, so I'm gonna give it a go. Let's put it on the lift it up and remove the wheels. And I really don't know how bad this is going to be. It's always exciting to lift a car for the first time, because that will reveal if the rust is really bad. I need a light to just check out stuff before I lift on it. This car is pretty rotten, to be honest, at first glance. Whoa! This is actually pretty bad. I'm not even sure I can lift it, to be honest. Now this right here is the lifting point. For my lift at least, and where you would normally lift the car. I don't know how well this will pick up. I'm just going to bring you in a little bit closer. Can you see that it's moving? And as you can see, it is very rotten. Oh, I went through. Yeah, this is not. It's not surprising to see this kind of rust, but the inner panel is also very rotten. I am not sure that I can even lift this car on my lift. I'm just going to go ahead and inspect the other side. Oh, it's way better over here. I can lift it on this side, no problem. That won't be any kind of issue at all, so that's good enough. But this side is just, I put the rubber in because I'm tempted to try to lift it, but I'm pretty sure it will be pretty. Oh no. It's the inner structure also. Yeah, I'm just taking this car apart with my hands now. This is not very good. Yeah, this is quite bad. It's definitely fixable. Most of my projects are worse than this. It's just a matter of how expensive it's going to be, with all the other stuff that also needs fixing. Now that's the problem when you get attached to your cars. This is his first car, and it will for sure be a difficult decision to scrap or get rid of your first car when you still have it. I am very happy that I don't have my first car. That would just be oh, it's crispy, man. It's so crispy. This area is bad. It's actually looking better than expected, the inner panel, and I'm just not sure it's up for the task without just collapsing. Well, maybe it's okay. It won't really change much, so I'm gonna try to lift it very carefully and see how it reacts. Yeah, it's holding up. It's all right. Okay, so the Opel is up in the air, and I'm trying to regain a bit of optimism, because if I'm really lucky, I just found the worst bit on the car, and if that's the worst, and there is not a lot of other stuff, then I'd say it's still doable within a reasonable budget. It's just very, very rare that you find the worst thing at first glance. So I'm going to take a look at the rust underneath as the first thing, because it's going to be what decides the fate of this car, I would presume. So let's try that. I'm going to put some light underneath, and then we're going to take a look. Yeah, the floor pan is not great, but it's manageable for sure. But I'm just going to go straight to the back where we know we have issues. That inner panel is definitely worn. And the problem about this area, other than the fact that it's rotten, is that it's going to be a fuel tank out job to do right this. Maybe rear axle also, maybe we can leave that in. But the fuel tank I would like to remove to fix this. And it's also the entire panel and probably a lot of the lower part of the inner panel on this side. Oh, and a new exhaust system is also needed. It's compiled up of a lot of different kind of stuff. It needs to be fixed up at least. The other side is difficult to see. I can see rot in there also. Let me just see if I can zoom in on it. Yeah. It's not at all as bad as on the other side, but it's definitely there. Brake lines needs changing back here. And also the spare wheel, well, looks a bit rotten. Not too bad. I think I'm going to do a thorough inspection of rust, because I really need to see what's there so I can give a realistic estimate of this. So be back when I have taken a better look at this. Okay, so let me just show you what I found in this first look. Of course, there is this rust that I just showed you just before. It's actually less bad than expected, but it's definitely very bad. Up here it's surface rust. Luckily I haven't found anything wrong with the chassis legs back here, but what I did find was this. This is this is the rear axle. And there's not supposed to be a hole right here, so it's just rotted away. As you can see, it's supposed to look like this. So this needs a new rear axle. I'm not sure it's allowed to repair. I'm not sure I'm allowed to repair on an axle like this. It's definitely would be better to just find another one. And it also needs quite a lot of attention back here, because the chassis leg is no longer attached to the rear panel. So the rear bumper needs to come off to really inspect and fix it back there. And as mentioned, the fuel tank needs to come off to fix the rust back here. I think that would be the best way to do it. A bit difficult on my lift, but that's that. The wheel arches are looking decent, but we are going to take a better look at those when the wheels are off. But I did find rot at the front panel also. It's difficult to really see how much needs to be fixed, but it's definitely very rotten. And something that needs to be taken a closer look at. But I'm going to take a look at the bearings and then remove the wheels to take a better look at the wheel arches. Front wheel. Oh, it's stuck against the lift. I'll have to remove the tire. I'm just going to remove the pressure, that way I can remove it. It's a bit of a problem with my lift, especially when the car is so rotten that I cannot lift it precisely as I would like to. I'm just going to take out the air That should be enough to free it up. With that now freed up, I can spin the tire almost. I have to do the same on the other side. So the bearing and the ball joints feel fine at first glance, so as long as they are not split, the rubbers, then they should be able to pass the MOT. But let's remove the tire also. There we go. One wheel off. So that makes it possible to inspect the wheel arch a little further. I think I better take a look, remove this and just take a look behind that one because that can hide a lot of rust, but it can also protect the car quite a lot from rust. Surprisingly clean looking in here. How much can you see? Yeah, it looks very nice. It's just a bit muddy, but not very rusty. So that's definitely nice to see. There's not a lot of welding to do at this corner of the car, but there is some. Maybe an hour. Maybe a bit more than an hour. There's more reconstruction to do all along here. Yeah, sorry Daniel, you will have to really like this car to save it. I gotta be honest with you. I mean, if it was a GSI or something like that, yep, I would save it definitely. But being this model, I probably won't. Brakes and stuff seems very nice. Disc, I think is usable. Unfortunately, the ball joint is split, the rubber is split. That's an MOT fail, even though it's not worn out yet. But that needs to be changed, and it's not cost effective to just change the rubber, unfortunately. So it is new ball joints for this side. And I say it would be false economy not to change the pads also. They look very, very worn. And of course the brake lines. I think the disc, yeah, the disc is definitely reusable. No reason to change that. Remember, this is Seaside Garage. I'm not just going to change everything. That's also the reason why Daniel contacted me, I think, because I don't just swap everything. But of course I need to inspect the brakes a bit further to know if they are stuck. They are performing just fine on the road actually. So I don't expect it to be any big problem, but you never know. So yeah, there's a plastic inner wheel arch protector, which is the reason why the car is still alive. That can also hide quite a lot, but I can see most of it in here. I think I probably will have to remove it, but there is something right there that I need to punch. If there is a hole there, it's gonna be bad. No hole, but lots of rust. Not really sure how much material is removed from there, but definitely some. I'm just going to remove the wheels on the other side also and inspect over there. And the other side got the same rust area up here. Oh, that's actually a metal plate, this up here. I think that's gone on the other side. This is supposed to be a piece of metal, so there's reconstruction to do on the chassis leg also. It's better in this side, which is generally a theme on this car. It's more healthy on the right side than the left side. Very often it's the left side that gets driven into the gravel on the side of the road. So it makes sense. So it's just better on the left side in general. So that wraps up the structural rust. And remember, I have just found a lot of rust on this car. And you really rarely find all the rust. You only find the tip of the iceberg. You always hear that, but it's no joke. There is always more than you expect. I always think that I found everything. I also do today, but there is probably more. And it's quite complicated. We are talking new rear axle or used rear axle. So removal of the old rear axle, removal of the fuel tank to really fix the inner panels and the outer panels, which needs to be done. A little bit of minor rust in the wheel arch on the left side. Some reconstruction at the front panel. Some reconstruction at the rear panel. All in all, it's not terrible, but there is a lot of rust. Oh, there's also some reconstruction to do at the spring mounts. That's not a big deal because the axle is coming off anyway. But we're talking many hours of rust repairs on this car. And I know Daniel likes this car. It's his first car. It's a pretty cool car. That's a problem when you get attached to your cars. It's very difficult to know where to stop. Don't get attached to your cars. Get attached to human beings instead. It makes a little bit more sense. Just my 50 cents. And I'm just ignoring that I'm completely attached to my Lancia Abarth. Anyway, let's take a look at all the other stuff. I'm going to fit the wheels back on, lower it down, and take a look at the engine and the interior, because there's also stuff in there that needs to be fixed. So the car is back on the ground, and I got air in the tires once again. The body up here though, we'll have to take a look at that also rust-wise. And at first glance it looks pretty decent, other than the rust up in the wheel arch that is a part of the panel. It seems all right. It's not too bad. There is a dent right here. This car has been stolen once because, of course, it's it's not from the 80s, but it's from the 90s. And there was a lot of car theft back then, so it has been broken into, and I'm not sure they even succeeded, but they got into the car by ripping this door up. And the owner would like me to try to fix this as good as I can. I'll possibly get another door, but I think it would be possible to just fix that dent and then paint it and make it look decent. There is a dent down here that I think can be pulled out, and then the rest of it can be hammered into shape and be all right, I think. So that's not that bad. There is, however, some rust running down on that needs to be checked out before attempting to fix the door, and there is also some small spots down there. And by the way, I always talk about the Danish MOT, and for instance, if that bulb down there is blown, you will not only get an advisory on your on the MOT, you will get an instant fail of the MOT. That being said, I'm going to show you something else on this, because this windscreen is cracked going up there and all the way across, and this car has been MOT'd with this crack many times because it is not in the point of view or view field. Just to make sure that's not the case next time also, I did bring this car to my local MOT station just to check, and this is all right. Surprisingly enough, when you think that one bulb for the number plate is an instant failure, but this is not. So it doesn't need to have the windscreen changed, and the owner didn't want to change it unless it was needed. But if it was needed to change, he would like to fix some rust that is up here. He would also like me to just sand it down and make it look a little bit better. The problem is, I don't think that this is just bubbles. Maybe I can lift up. Yeah, there is a hole into this A-pillar right there, and I guess there is a couple up here also. So the windscreen should probably be removed to fix. Well, it needs to be removed to fix, and it will probably be a lot worse than expected. I guess that most likely this entire corner would need to be reconstructed. Maybe something down here also, I don't know. but that is, yeah, you could sand it down and put some polyester filler over it and be all right for the MOT. I don't think it's so bad that it is dangerous, but it's definitely there and a problem. I love the interior on this one. It's worn, but it is so actually 80s, even though it's a 90s. But that fabric pattern is just awesome. And Daniel has gotten another steering wheel for this. I'm pretty sure it's from the GSI, and it looks awesome. I love that steering wheel. Nothing I've seen in here is a problem for the MOT, but Daniel still have some stuff that he would like me to fix and also check. Look, Daniel is the perfect customer because there is a Haynes manual. There's lots of parts and tires in the back. It's full of stuff. That's nice. But the stuff in here that he would like me to fix is a mechanic back in the days made this to avoid the car being stolen. For once, it's really a bad way to avoid someone stealing your car, because if you can steal a car, you can definitely overcome one of these. But he would like to get that removed, and he would also like to maybe get some new plastic down here because it's broken with screws and all that after the break-in attempt. So he would like that to be fixed. And then there is the heater. Let me just put it into ignition. Yep, it's not working. I think this is also in the trunk somewhere, the spare part, at least if it's the blower engine. That, of course, he would like to get fixed. And then there are some different kind of small electrical stuff on the list. But other than that, it's not too bad in here. Let's take a look at that engine. And here we have it, the 1.4 engine, OHC, Opel engine. Coupled together with a 5-speed, which I don't think is original. I think it's been changed for a 5-speed, but it's very nice to have a 5-speed in one of these. I got a list of stuff on this engine that he would like me to check out. Of course, the general service is on the list. Then he asks me to check the camshaft, to check that for wear. Is it too worn? I don't know why he thinks that's a problem, but at first glance, it's sounding just great. It pulls fine, so I don't think it's an issue. Then he asked me, is the head gasket blown? Yeah, I don't know how much Daniel knows about engines. I know he's a motoring journalist, but that doesn't mean you know a lot about engines. And I don't really know why he is wondering if the head gasket is blown. But I have experienced quite a lot of times that people confuse the valve cover gasket and the cylinder head gasket, because the valve cover gasket is definitely leaking. So maybe it's just that he saw. I don't know. I do not have any suspicion that there is any head gasket issues. I'm looking for mayonnaise. I think you guys know that. Also checking the coolant reservoir. It looks a bit dirty but not oily. And then the last thing you can check on a cold engine for head gasket issues is to take out the dipstick, and if there's mayonnaise on that, you might be in trouble. It looks just great. That being said, for instance, what's they called? TU engines? The engines in Saxos and a lot of Peugeots and Citroëns. They tend to always have a lot of mayo going on up here, and it's not necessarily anything to do with the head gasket. So it's not a conclusive test at all. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the head gasket on this engine. But it definitely needs a service. It definitely needs new fluids and new valve cover gaskets and so on. Other than that, I don't think it needs much, because take a listen. And keep in mind, this car's been off the road for many, many years. It's of course just been switched on 3 days ago when I parked it here. But let me just fire it up and then you can take a listen. We have no fuel pressure. I'm just gonna put it into ignition a couple of times to prime the pump. Then try again. Okay, this was totally unexpected. This has just fired on the button pretty much all times when I have fired it up and I drove it here, no problems. Now it doesn't want to start, and I think it's fuel related. I don't think it's pumping fuel up, which is a bit weird. I haven't touched anything other than hitting it with a hammer different places on the car. Okay, so this is the fuel relay. I'm just gonna try to give it power straight into that to see if I can make the pump go. I could hear that the relay was clicking just fine, so I know that works. It's just a pump. Let's see, I don't know which of the wires it is. Maybe this? Yeah, I can hear the pump making a hollow dunk sound, which is exactly what I was expecting, because that is a pump that is stuck. I hope to be able to just shock it a lot of times into life. Let's see. What I normally do now would be to use a battery from one of my skill tools, because it's 18 volts, a bit more than, or is it 20? I think it's 20. But that gives it a kick, and that will very often make it work. But I will have to go to the pump to do that, because I will have to go directly to ground also. I'm just trying to slush the petrol around a little bit in the tank in hope that I can somehow disturb the fuel pump down there to start working. Okay, so the fuel pump is tot or dead. It's right down there. I'm just gonna take it out because then I can try to massage it back into life. It seems to be pretty decently accessible, so I'm just gonna remove it. So this just turned into a bit of a wrenching video, but I need this car to be able to run so I can get it out. So I'm hopefully not going to change the pump, but this car needs a new pump if Daniel decides that it's worth it to save it. But right now I just want it to work somehow. I hope to be able to take it out and massage it back into life. The pump is on the bench, and at first glance it's missing a bottom part. There's got to be some kind of filter device down here. It's probably swimming around in the fuel tank, but that gives me a little hope, because it could mean that something is in there and making the impeller stuck. Let me just see if that one even moves. Nope, it didn't. But take a look at this. I'm just gonna get, whoop. A piece of plastic comes out. And now it spins. So if I'm lucky that it's not completely burned out, then I think it should work now. Again, just going to try to put power on it straight away. Nothing. It's probably dead. Just gonna give the good old tap a chance. And then let's try again. Oh yeah! Haha, it's back to life. Woohoo! Never underestimate the power of one of these. Thanks, Blas. This is not fixed. It's just revived. It will not be reliable. As a minimum, it would need a filter so it doesn't pull in more pieces of plastic, which was the cause of this mishap, at least. Not only that, it also got somewhat stuck, so I think it's on its way to burn out completely. So, but hopefully it will make the car possible to start up and move again. So I'm going to fit this back to the car. And then I guess we are back at where we began. Let's try to see if the fuel pump primes to begin with. And if it runs. Yep, the fuel pump primed straight away. Let's turn the key. Oh yeah! Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there's a noisy fan belt, probably because the battery is a bit low. Just gonna give it some revs and hopefully. Make it stay away. Let's see. Ah! Okay, so what I was trying to say about this engine a couple of half an hour ago is that it's really running nicely. Considering this has not driven for many years, it is smooth. It sounds nice. It's not too tappety. It's overall really healthy, I think. And I have also driven this car from the storage to my place with testing number plates, just to test how the car feels overall, and it works. The engine works just fine. I think it's a 75 horsepower. It feels more like 60, but still it needs a service and all that. So and it's also a kind of soft car, so the power delivery is not that intense. But it seems to run just fine. I don't think there will be much trouble with this engine, other than it just needs a regular service to stop the leaks. New oil, probably also on the gearbox, new cam belt, new air filter, and so on. And then I think the engine will be just fine. So this was the first real look at the Opel. A lot more rust than expected. I don't really know what I was expecting, but it's just quite bad. The rest of it is decent. The engine, I don't think will be much trouble. I don't think the brakes, the suspension and so on will be much trouble to get through the MOT. There is some rattles and stuff that would be nice to get fixed. But it's definitely rust that is the big deal on this car. And now it's of course up to him to decide what to do. Yeah, we're just gonna have to see. But it's a pretty cool little motor. I don't know why, but my heart is not beating very fast for Opels. Probably because I never had one. It tends to be the reason why I'm not really interested in cars, because I don't. Oh, what a big spider. That was scary looking. Anyway, I don't know what the future will bring on this car. If there will be more videos, I just don't know, because it's not up to me to decide. But if we go down the restoration road on this one, you will probably see quite a lot of videos on this. Anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget you can support me on Patreon. There is a link down below, and see you in the next one.